Welcome to the ND and Free podcast, a podcast and media platform that explores how NDers can live their truth and feel free in their lives. We hear from inspiring coaches, therapists, experts, and fellow NDers from all over the world. I'm Owen Morgan, a wellbeing coach, speaker, and writer. I have over 10 years experience in the wellbeing sector and have interviewed over 500 people across 4 podcasts. I received my ADHD diagnosis at 41 and it changed my life. My mission is to explore how the human spirit and understanding our whole self can bring us a life full of possibilities. Welcome back, guys. So today is a little bit different. I'm actually going to be re-releasing an episode from a long time ago, probably a couple of years ago, when I was hosting the Awareness Space podcast, which was all about self-awareness, self-compassion, how we can use those things to move forward in our lives. Interviewed, I can't even imagine, even count how many people I interviewed on that particular show. And it was incredible. And I had groups of people coming on, individual one-to-ones, but I had a magazine show on that one, which was 4 of my friends from the industry, and then we'd come on and pick on topics, and we'd all take turns and share our thoughts on it. And this one was all about burnout, as you saw in the title. Now, the reason I'm sharing this, even though it's not ND related, there's a big conversation these days about the difference between ADHD burnout, autistic burnout, and general burnout and fatigue. So this episode, I think, is actually quite useful to hear what we're talking about. I didn't know I was ADHD at the time. There's other people in that panel who have been diagnosed since as well. So it's quite an interesting chat. So about 35, 40 minutes. So not too long, but yeah, it's amazing. It's got Ewan, who I did coaching, he was my coach for a while, which is incredible. My friend Jess, who will be on the show soon, who is the co-host on my movie podcast for a year and a half, which we hope to come back soon. And then my friend Jason, he's an amazing guy who did coaching as well as his barbering. And then Adrienne, who is a trauma therapist. So amazing group of people. But I hope you enjoy. I didn't interview anybody this week. We had to postpone. So I've got no episode for you. So here we are. So I hope you enjoy what I think is a very powerful conversation. Yeah, amazing. I've got, I think 6 or 7 people booked in coming up. So don't worry, plenty of content to come. I'm also 4 weeks off finishing my ADHD coaching qualification. I'm starting my client practice sessions. So keep an eye out for that. I've got some big plans for all of the coaching side of things soon. But thank you so much for everybody supporting the show, supporting us on social media. And I can see there's regular listeners, and just, yeah, honestly, thank you so much. It's a big passion of mine, just talking about well-being. It's amazing that you guys are here on the ride, supporting me on that journey. So yeah, amazing. And if you're interested in Anquay mushroom gummies, which I'm affiliating and partnering with them, at the end of the show, you'll hear an advert all about that. So tune in for that one as well. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to hand over now to myself in the past, and hope you enjoy this panel show for this rewind episode. Welcome everybody to episode 3 of the Awareness Space panel show. In each episode, we will talk about a modern day issue and how we can support ourselves holistically, a deep dive into human experience. I brought together 4 amazing people and experts in the field of health and well-being to join me as we unpack these topics. And we hope that we can help you to live a full and meaningful life. Really, really cool. I've got all 4 of them back again. I can't believe it. There's the perfect 5. This is really, really exciting. And I'm so grateful to these guys for taking time out for this beautiful project of ours. Today, we're going to take a look at burnout. We will discuss how it may feel, how to remain steady, covering how we can create a calmer, balanced, and healthy relationship with the demands of life. Not easy in this modern day structure that we have. And these are shorter episodes now, everybody. So we're going to sort of jump straight in. So we are looking at burnout. I think a lot of us have experienced this, us individually on this call, and many people out there in the world. So logically, it makes sense to start with kind of what burnout feels like for each of you. You know, what does it look like? What happens to you? So people can maybe relate. Yeah, that's my one. Or yeah, that's my one. So, Adrienne, if we just open up with you, because I know you're going through a little bit of this at the moment. So, if you just want to explain to us how your current burnout looks for you, what behaviors, thoughts, feelings, how does it look?
Yeah, glad to share. And like I said, when I reached out to you today, I was gonna not come on because I thought, oh, I'm not in the space to do this, and I don't want. There's a part of us that I think doesn't want people to see us like this, right? Because there's a little piece that says, oh, people won't want to work with me because I'm going through this. But I thought then on the other side of that, I had a somatic experiencing session yesterday, and we processed a lot, and I slept like 9 hours last night, and reflecting on the things I've done to take care of myself, I thought, well, isn't this the perfect example to just show up and show people that it doesn't really matter who you are, how settled you are, how many years you've been working on these things. If you're not careful, aware, and present, it can happen. So yeah, I'm feeling a little better today, but mostly exhausted. I've been experiencing a lot of freeze, which for me shows up like um, a muddy sensation or a foggy sensation in my head, and especially shows up in sequential memory. So forgetting that I have things to do, or losing track on to-do lists or tasks and organizational items, and then also any type of task that requires a lot of executive function. So, for example, I'm really struggling because I do multiple things, but my workspace, I am behind on notes. And if you're a therapist or you're any type of medical person, you know what that feels like. And I'm very behind on notes. So um, it's a very unsettling sensation. It's very almost a juvenile sensation. Like I feel like a little kid, like I'm bad, like I didn't do what I'm supposed to do in school. And that's a yucky feeling. And then that starts to spiral into sensations of, in my chest and my gut and my head of just like burning or uh, heart rate, high heart rate, a lot of throat. Up until today, it's starting to clear, like I said, but like lump in my throat. And yesterday I was nauseous after my somatic experiencing session for almost 8 hours. And it can, I shared with a colleague today, if I didn't know what was happening, I probably would have taken myself to the doctor yesterday, or possibly even the ER. But it's also related in trauma. And I think that's the part that a lot of us forget, is that it doesn't just randomly happen. It's, for me, what we ended up discovering in my SE session yesterday. It started with the fires a few weeks ago, which I might have talked about on this podcast. I've been on a couple, so I don't remember if I did, but I had a fire here in Arizona that was only a few miles from my home for over 2 weeks. And the smoke was here. I mean, you could look outside and it was smoky. So it was really a serious situation, which can put anyone's physiology into a blunder, right? But then in my somatic experiencing session, that was what started my burnout. And I knew, and I was struggling that week with the notes, and it kept going and kept going, and we couldn't figure out why. And it turned out being related to a very early childhood memory that had to do with fire. And so who knew? And my conceptualization and my experience, that's usually the case, is it's not just some random thing that happens. We're driven by our experiences in life, right? I'm driven to do this work because of what I've been through. I feel like I need to show up to the world because I made it out of what I come from to be able to be here with people who are going through the levels of trauma and abuse I've lived through. And so I'm pushing myself and pushing myself. And there's an element of two sides, two parts to me. The part that feels driven to show up and I must, because I couldn't find this kind of help for decades. And then the side of me that I kept pushing down, which was like, whoa, we have a serious trauma coming up over here. You need to deal with this. And finally, it just took me out. I mean, last week I went down hard and I had to ask for help. And it was a mess. So, and I did, and I'm here and I'm glad. But boy, what a good reminder.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's interesting, like you said, how it may build up, and then there's some little flags, there's little things that we notice, but for whatever reason we keep going, or maybe it's the pressure, people we need to attend to, especially as therapists. I think it's quite common for many therapists to burn themselves out just through empathetic listening, let alone anything else. But the fact that there's trauma in there too must just really, really affect that. And when we get back round, when we go around the group, we're going to ask you, what does it look like? How do you take care of yourself? And that'll be really interesting to see with someone with your knowledge and your background, how that would unfold. So when we return, we'll find out a little bit more about how you deal with that. But thank you, Adrienne, so much for sharing that with us today in this raw, present fashion. That means a lot. Thank you. So, Jason, for you, have you had burnout before or been near it? What did that look like, feel like?
Yeah, this is something like, first, Adrienne, thank you so much for sharing that. That was really really powerful for me, and thank you so much for sharing your vulnerability around that. This is something that I can relate to, like, so much, and I really appreciate everything you were saying around that. Owen, I suffer with burnout constantly. I'm probably like a self proclaimed workaholic, perhaps, and not just self-proclaimed, like everyone around me says that you do too much constantly. I guess it's like it stems from a feeling around ego, like I expect a lot from myself, and I know the person that I am, and I know the power that I hold, and therefore I also expect the world from that. I know what I bring to the table, and I think sometimes my ambition and ego get in the way of my realization around limitation, and around what I expect from myself and what's physically possible. Before I came onto this call, similar, obviously not the same as Adrienne, but similar in the sense that I thought maybe I've done too much recently. I might just have to cancel doing this. But this is a subject that's really close to my heart, and it's something that I absolutely wanted to do. So this is almost like, just hearing this and just listening to this is almost like therapy for me. Also, this feels like a real safe space in which to express this. And also it's really quite reassuring to hear how other people similar to myself, with the guys here that are really dynamic, driven, motivational people who show up and do the best that they can day to day. It's nice to, I guess it's kind of reassuring to me to hear that other people are going through this also, and burnout to me is like, it's doing too much always. It's just like, I'm quite a good organizer. I look at my day and I can plan, day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute, what I can do and what I can fit into a day. And if everything goes as it should, it means that there's no reason why I can't do all of this stuff within a day. But lo and behold, that's not how days pan out. There's always something within your day that's going to go, quote unquote wrong, or maybe what I should say is not to my liking, and I haven't made spaces within the day to adjust or to have room for those times when those events arise. So what ends up happening is I end up pushing myself harder and pushing myself further and working longer and staying up later. And really what I should be doing is throwing the towel in and saying, hey, I've done what I could do. It's now 11 o'clock. That's way past my bedtime these days. So I need to go to bed and just chill the hell out. So yeah, man, that's my 10 pence on my experience with burnout.
Yeah, thank you very much. It reminds me of how I tend to go, oh, I'll just do a bit more. I just do a bit more. I just do a bit more. Oh, feeling a bit agitated. I'll just do a bit more. And then, yeah. And that's just small scale. That's just in one day, but imagine that over days and days and days. Just a little bit more. It's just self-regulation, I guess, in there as well. But yeah. So for you, JessicaRose, how does that look? Because obviously, you've got all the stuff with your personal life at the moment and your work and everything. So I guess it's, what's your been experience of this? How does that look for you?
Oh man, burnout is so real. And I find myself being burn out on a regular basis. So kind of like what we were talking about, Adrienne said, you have this like part of you that's like push through, push through, push through. That was one of the things I learned through seeing my mom, like there's no stopping, just push through, just push through, push through. And then there's that part of me that's like, take a break already. But, even the same thing as Jason shared, like, oh, you do too much. And I've been told for years and years and years that, oh, you have too high expectations of myself, of other people. So that causes some of the burnout too, is that I have this high expectation. I got to do it all. I got to push through it all. There is no time for a break, right? So it's those everyday things that I start slipping on and that just build up over time to where it's like full blown burnout. And for my situation, I'm really learning a lot being a caregiver because it's hard. I mean, everyone is going through their own thing in life, right? But for me personally, in my experience as a caregiver, the hardest thing is that feeling of I am responsible for my husband's livelihood. That if I mess up, if I miss this, if I do that, if I do this, it's affecting someone else's life. But at the same time, I'm really having to take that step back and look at it and being like, I have my life to live too, and I have to take care of myself. And I'm taking care of my husband the best that I can right now. And sometimes I do need a break. So like I shared, I was kind of already feeling like I was about to get burnt out again. So I went for work to Puerto Rico, and just being away for a bit, it was scary having other people having to take care of my husband while I was gone. But at the same time, it was a break I need, that when I came back, I'm much stronger, and having to remind myself those little daily things like, don't slip up. You still need to do these things to keep you going, to try and keep the burnout at bay. But there's been more than one occasion where I have felt completely and utterly burnout. And as we talk about like the body, right, the awareness of the body, that definitely feeling tired. All the pains from all my traumas stored in my body start aching more, start coming out more. My body's a lot more vocal, the brain fog, not thinking. But one big thing is anger. So even as a child, I had a really hard time dealing with anger, and I will be angry. I will be snippy. I will explode. And then I'm like, that's not me. That's the other side of my Gemini life, right? So it's interesting. There's so many aspects of it, like how we feel as we're getting towards that burnout, all the sensations in the body, our mind, our emotions, our attitudes, all the things. So it's definitely juggling personal life and work life sometimes is difficult, especially when you own your own business. Business doesn't keep moving if you're not moving. So things also weigh heavy on that side and cause burnout on the professional side of things too.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we can see some common themes here, but also it seems to affect us all slightly different ways as well, which is really interesting. It might be more head-based, more body-based, maybe the whole shebang. I think trauma can come up, like you said, that's really powerful. It can bring up some things, your window tolerance just completely gone. And then you're behaving in ways that aren't true to your values. And then you go in that spiral of like, oh my God, am I a bad person now? Oh shit. And there's something to really think about, can you still behave with your values even when you're burnt out? That's a whole other question. And not easy. So yeah, thank you for that. So Ewan, what about you, my friend? How does it feel? How does it look? Tell us more.
That question I'm just careful not to answer the question you just posed. That's a great question. So I really enjoyed listening to everyone, and interestingly, as everyone was talking, I was getting more insight into how I've experienced burnout over the years. So prior to becoming a therapist and coach, I had about 3 occasions in the industry I was in where I burnt out to the point where I had to take 2 weeks off work. And at one point I was put on a mild antidepressant. So what's already been talked about 100%, I would just keep on going. So much of my sense of worth is attached to how much I achieve, and keeping my employers happy, and like's been said, saying yes to everything. I remember when I discovered the power of no at that company, it was like a revelation. I just started saying no to everything. And eventually I said no to working for corporations, and that was when I decided to train as a therapist and to work for myself, because the expectation, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but the expectations within a lot of organizations to give is so huge. So I really empathize with how hard that can be to make sure you're looking after yourself when there's so much demand. And since my operation a year and a half ago, I experienced huge burnout after that. I couldn't work for 2 months, which was normal, I suppose, after a major operation. But I needed to go back to work to get the money back in, right? And it's been a real learning curve for me in really slowing down, and I've had to do the minimum. Which has been difficult because I have all these goals and aspirations, and I want to help more people, and I want to, and my body has just said no. And like Gabor Mate says, right, when the body says no, we've got to listen. And like Adrienne was sharing a moment ago, she reflecting back, you could see those cues, right? And I think for me, I've got much better at spotting my cues, and those can be in the daytime. So what I do a lot of the time now is I just lie on the floor for like 15 minutes, allow my nervous system to completely drop in and switch off. And I do that every single day. Just when I start to feel a little wobble, and I recently been getting a little bit of empathy fatigue myself. And I identified that about 2 weeks ago with the little wobble, with the little, how engaged am I with my client? Like how I'm fully engaged am I with my client? Like I'm drifting. I notice myself drift a little bit, and that becomes more prominent. Then I'm like, okay, right, step back. What's going on here? And then I commit. Next week I'm having a week off because I was just like, you really need a week off, Ewan. And yeah, I mean, a lot of it for me in the last year and a half, there have been days when I've had to cancel my clients because I've been gone into a shutdown, but that was more to do with the way the operation rather than the burnout. But yeah, I mean, it's a learning curve, isn't it? I think one of the other things, just to finish, is understanding one's own trauma and how vicariously that can be being affected and triggered by clients. Has been such a huge learning curve for me, and if we're not keeping on top of that, then we're no good to ourselves or our clients. And yeah, we got to look after ourselves first, right? And for me, that's an ever growing lesson, really, to put myself first. It's not selfish to do that. Yeah, I think that's about me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And there's so much nodding going on in this room right now, so it kind of shows it all, doesn't it? We're all human. We kind of get some of these experiences where I'm nodding away. Yeah, of course. That happens to me, and there's a lot of commonality here. And thank you, because there's some stuff in there too about how you kind of work with that, which is really, really powerful. So that's kind of where we're going next. We're just going to look at that briefly before we go. So Adrienne, for you, obviously, in this moment, what you're going through, in the past and now, how do you start to implement these self-care? What's the routines look like, and what are the key ones that seem to really help you come out the other side?
Well, first and foremost was just coming to the conscious awareness that I am not okay. And that's really hard for me to do. I think for a lot of us, especially as helpers, just being able to conceptually say to myself, I'm not okay, and I need help. And the tough part, I think, that we have to be careful and mindful of is that we can do that, and if we're not doing it in a space where that can be heard, you're going to still be pushed. And that's an awareness that I haven't necessarily worked in a space where it's so unheard before. And because I have so many multiple, I do the trauma recovery yoga on my own, and I'm now partnering with an organization. And then I did a training for that organization recently, and then my own business with my private clients, and then my therapist job. And then I coach at another organization. So it was so interesting to watch the way my ask was received in all those different spaces. And it was very informative. And it's going to help me to make some choices moving forward, because I do come first. And there's a part of me, again, from the past, a lot of us are helpers because of things we've been through, that really wanted to just like lay down and cry about that. Like I just asked for help and I didn't get heard in one of those spaces, like at all. Or maybe I was heard, but not by people who could help, or by the people who had the authority to do so, I guess you could say. And it's also interesting to see what different people think of as help. So just recognizing that what other people might think of as help is not what I needed. And being like, what do I need, right? So even Owen conceptualizing what do I need help with, you know? So and not being ashamed to say, you know what help looks like to me? Help looks like somebody calling me and saying, are you okay? It doesn't look like saying, take a day off, or well, we'll give you a day to catch up. It doesn't look like that for me. That feels like dismissiveness. And so also being okay with the fact that maybe what I need, what I want, which is co-regulation in the world of trauma therapy, that's what we've called, is I want somebody who hears what I'm saying and can hold a space with me. And just finding that as a helper, you know, it's hard to find that. And that was hard to accept, because when you open yourself up and say, I need help, usually once we do that, we're kind of at the space where we're beyond being able to tell the person that we're asking for help how to help us. So I feel like I'm rambling on a little bit, but I just wanted to make that really clear that maybe we need to change the way that we deal with burnout by like creating burnout sheets ahead of time, maybe for our employees, and actually having them conceptually realize, like, what do I need from you when I am going into burnout? Perhaps, I don't know. Maybe we should all have, you know, how you wear those bracelets? Maybe we should have like burnout bracelets that say, this is what I need when I'm burning out. So, yeah, I want co-regulation. It's why I'm a good therapist. It's why I'm a great coach, because I do it really well. And also as helpers, sometimes I talked with my one mentor yesterday about, or maybe it was last week, my days are all jumbled. As you become a proficient helper, and this is pertinent to helpers too, right? We really need to be careful to build a network of other helpers who know what we need and can be there with us in that capacity. Because when you're in burnout and you ask for help and you don't receive it, it can spiral you. And that's what happened to me last week. Without getting into a lot of details, it was not okay. It was not good. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm glad that we start with co-regulation. That's really, really powerful, because, you know, when we're in these burnout states, the last thing we're thinking about is, you know, mustering up the courage or the strength to reach out and say, oh, I really need help, and potentially be rejected in the process. So it's hard enough doing that for a lot of people anyway, without the burnout on top. And I think you're right. The co-regulation piece is to be seen, heard, and understood is even more so when we're kind of on our knees and we need a helping hand. So thanks so much, Adrienne. So co-regulation, I love it. So Jason, what is your kind of, you know, after those big crazy days, what is it? What is it, man? Is it, other than chocolate, of course, what is it? This is episode 2, everyone, to get that reference.
Yeah, well, that certainly helps. I would say the biggest one for me that I've learned is boundaries. 100% self-regulation, boundaries, you know, like Adrienne said, recognizing this ahead of time, you know, and implementing change before burnout happens. That ultimately has to be, for me anyway, just the best way for me to move forward. You know, it's just recognizing the triggers, recognizing how, when Adrienne was talking about also, beg your pardon, when JessicaRose was talking about the points within your body that start to sort of feel, you know, I really feel like when we do suffer with tension and sort of negativity and exhaustion throughout the day, we store it in different points of our body, and then we just kind of tuck it away and forget about it for a little bit. And then as the day wears on and as tension starts to build and as exhaustion starts to come on, stress starts to come up, you feel those little points within your body, that start to kind of like come up and start with like make you wobble. And, and normally our body can sort of, our body's normally telling us this, we will put a hand on our head, or we'll put a hand on our throat or on our heart or something like that. And it's usually your body's way of going, hang on a minute, it's stress here, or you're not saying enough, or maybe you're saying too much, or maybe there's something someone said and it's really hurting you. And that's, and it can be one of those things. And normally it's just recognizing that within yourself. Where's my hand going to? Oh, it's on my heart. That doesn't mean someone must be really hurting me. Someone's asking too much of me. Or maybe it's on my throat. My hand's going there. Whereas my body's trying to tell me that I'm not saying something. Perhaps I'm not saying I need help. Perhaps I'm not saying no, as Ewan said, perhaps I'm not saying no enough. So yeah, I just think it's that self-regulation and just kind of just recognizing really when you need to ask for help and when you're in a state of vulnerability, because that's something that I have a lot of not a problem with it, but I have an egotistical way of being sometimes, and I really do recognize that within myself. I'm somebody that expects, as I said, like a lot from myself, and I feel like I can take on the world and do it all myself. And that's been the same, from childhood for me. That's one of those things where, you realize, hang on a minute, no one's here for me. No one's listening to me. No one wants to help me. No one's here for me. So therefore I have to do everything myself. And you realize that, you can do that for so much, but when you want to elevate yourself and bring yourself up a bit more, you have to ask for help, and where would I be if I wasn't a coach who didn't practice what they preached? I don't think I would level up myself. I don't think I would be that good of a coach, if I didn't get coaching myself, if I didn't ask therapists for help, if I didn't get a counseling from time to time, I feel like that's a really important thing. I don't know about any of you guys, but when I find it's almost addictive when I'm helping somebody. I really, really love helping people, and I love letting people ride with a subject, there's something that they want to talk about, and then you kind of explore that with them, and you let them talk it, and then you see them kind of come into themselves and open up, and suddenly they're like, they feel powerful, and that for me is almost like an addictive feeling, because I really feel strong and powerful when I'm helping people. I feel like I don't know if you want to call it connected to source. I'm just going to go with it and say that I feel connected to source, whatever that is. At that moment, I feel like I'm there for that purpose. For that experience. I love elevating and bringing people up. But equally, sometimes it does have a negative effect on me where I take on too much, because I love doing it so much, and I love speaking to people. I love sharing energy, and I love being around different people, and in my mind, I can do it. And in my mind and in my core and in my soul, I'm strong, and it's almost like I'm on fire sometimes. I love doing this, for instance, like I was going to almost drop out on today's show, but no, nuts to that. I really love doing this, and I feel like that fire and passion and burning sensation inside of me when I'm giving these talks. I love this sort of stuff. But equally, I have to realize that my physical body cannot sustain what my mind and my soul wants to do. In my mind and in my soul, I'm infinite. I'm everything, and I can talk this stuff for forever and ever and ever. But my physical body cannot. I need sleep. I need my 8 hours. I've got to do that. So just to round up, I feel if I do not set boundaries for myself, then I will go back into burnout again. And it's happened to me again and again and again and again, until I finally learn, until I finally say, hang on a minute, maybe I need to take a step back. Maybe I need to drop my ego, which tells me I can, no, your physical body can do it, Jason. You can keep going. You can keep doing this, but I know that I can't. So I need to sometimes just allow that vulnerability in and allow myself to go, hey, you know what? I'm only human, and I only have a certain amount of time within a day in which to do all the things that I want to do. When it comes to a certain point, that's it. Switch off my time, and I can't help people at that time. I need a bit of time for myself. I need to go and, like I said before, I like to do a bit of reading or something. I need to sleep, I need to just be on my own from time to time. And if I don't recognize that I will do this, I will slip into the same old pattern, which again is burnout. So, yeah.
Thank you, man. Lots more nodding going on around here. And it's so true, isn't it, in this line of work? Because it's so, like, I've only been coaching for a week and a half, and I've absolutely loved it. It feels so grounding. It's like I'm meant to be doing this, but I get it, Jason. I'm now thinking, yeah, cool, right. So I'll do 5 clients a day. I'm going to like transform lives. It's going to be amazing. I already know that's a complete error and mistake. There's no boundaries. So it's really important to kind of know yourself as well. I want to turn up for them the best way I can. Really regulated, really safe, really present. So Jessica Rose, what do you do when you are in burnout?
Oh man. I have like so many thoughts have like been coming in my head. I loved something that Ewan had said made me think the movie Yes Man. And I'm like, where's our movie No Man? Like where's all the no's? So I was gonna say like self boundaries, because that's something I actually talked with my marketing coach today. Is I was like, man, it's not so much my boundaries with other people, it's my boundaries with myself. So I think Jason covered a lot of that really well. And as you were talking to Owen, how like, setting up, okay, I want to see 10 clients a day, that high, that adrenaline of that people pleasing, like I can help all these people and I can change the world as fast as I can. But then making sure we're putting boundaries on ourselves to still change ourselves and make our world as better as we can. I loved when Adrienne had said the part about the I'm not okay. And that's something I tell people all the time. Like, you don't have to necessarily know what works for you, but if you can name it and articulate it, it gives other people the option to help. So that's something that I've been working on for a few years now, is really just saying like, I feel like I'm finally in those stages, like I can ask for what I need. But of course, when you're in full burnout, just like Adrienne mentioned, like, you're just not there. You just can't, like, you're done. I love the idea of the burnout sheets that he said, or like the medical bracelets, like, just give me a hug, because I'm a physical touch person. So like if I'm burnout, if I'm overwhelmed to the absolute max, I just want a hug. Can just get a little huggy hug, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, life is good. But I did this recently on my trip, and I've been doing this, like I said, for a few years now, but when I went to Puerto Rico, there was 3 of us on the team, and one of the women who was there to help interpret, I never met her before in my life. The other woman I had only met at a meeting via Zoom, so we didn't really know each other either. And I told them, hey, I got this thing going on back home. Here's kind of my situation. I just want you to be aware. So if something happens, if I have to take a call, if I have to step away, you guys know that there's some other heavier stuff in the background. And they both thanked me for that. They're like, thank you so much. If there's anything you need, if there's anything you can think of, let us know so we can help support you. And sometimes that's been the biggest thing for me. It's just being honest with people, with different contracts I have, saying, hey, I got this going on. This particular thing happened, things got worse. I need an extension on my deadline, or I'm not able to keep up with this. Can we pause our contract for a month? Things like that, like making that ask. But that kind of leads to when we're not doing that, when we don't have those self boundaries, when we're not being honest with ourselves, what's going on, honest with other people so they can know what's going on, and knowing what we need and knowing that direct ask, like eventually that will lead to burnout when we're not practicing those things. So I think those are probably my biggest things, is naming it, telling the people around me what's going on. If I know what I need, asking directly about that, and just trying to keep boundaries on myself and not let myself be a yes man and be okay with being a no man. So that's probably the big stuff.
You need to send this script and film idea to where. They probably won't go for it, but it's not a... don't think it'll get approved. But you're right. It's boundaries with others and boundaries with yourself. But you need to know yourself to know to set the intention for your day. How you're going to start your day. Setting that intention. I learned a lot from mine and Jason's friend Sean Houlihan, absolute legend. He's all about intention, and it's always got in my head about how you intend to spend your day and try and sort of align yourself with that and stick to that plan. Not easy though. So yeah, thanks, Jessica Rose. That was really powerful. And for you, and you mentioned a little bit earlier on, but yeah, just tell us a little bit more about how you may find a way to get yourself back on track.
Yeah, I think like you just said a minute ago, being very, very intentional with my time, knowing what my limit is. I think I've had to learn that. Well, I have had to learn that gradually over time by making mistakes and burning out, understanding where my window of tolerance is. And a lot of the time, it's in my daily practices of yoga, meditation, and breath work that keep me grounded, keep me centered in my own nervous system. So those are indispensable to me. And they used to be like, I pick them up, I put them down, I pick them up, I put them down. They are non-negotiables now. So I give myself 2 hours in the morning just devoted to practice, where I will journal, meditate, yoga, breath work, and if I've got time, a little bit of reading. And so really pouring into myself. The thing that I still struggle with is in close, intimate relationships, asking for what I need there, saying, oh, I need you right now. Can you be there for me? I'm learning how to do that more as I grow and continue to heal myself. I've never, in the last 10, 11 years, I've never had a problem in asking for help professionally. And so I still have therapy every 2 weeks. That's a commitment I have to myself. It's a real good time for me for co-regulation. Often at times, that's the one relationship where able to get a little around the edges of what I might be avoiding, consciously or unconsciously. But really my key thing is putting my hand on my heart and my hand on my gut and just sitting there and breathing deeply into my body and learning to embrace myself. And when a hug is available, I'll latch onto that too. But not many hugs recently. Oh, little violin. No, but genuinely, I'm missing hugs. I'm missing hugs. So like when I see some people at the moment, I'm like, hey, hugs. And they're like, whoa, you're in need of a hug. Are you? A bit of a hug famine going on. But we need that though, right? Well, and we really do need that physical contact. And so, yeah, I'm a little bit lacking that at the minute. And so just acknowledging that. And I've got some good meetups happening in the next couple of weeks. So there'll be some hugs.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's really interesting. Well, after everything you shared today, it's very much been co-regulation boundaries, isn't it? I think we're kind of looking at those as the two key things. I think that's right. We're wired to connect, and people can re-elevate our spirit, make us feel held up, and that we're here. So, even today, this may have helped Adrienne on some level, even though it's been quite intense, lots of chat. You're held here with us today, and hopefully that will help in some way or another. Okay, guys, thank you so much. We've all learned lots of lessons here today, and live in action. We're gonna wrap up today's episode here. I just thank you so much for everything you're doing, and I'm really looking forward to do more episodes with you in the future. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next time. Endy and Free is in partnership with Anque Mushroom Gummies. Since my ADHD diagnosis in October 2024, I have been trying to find a supplement to help my struggle to focus, ease my brain fog, and help my overall energy. I'd been getting mixed results from multiple supplements until I came across Anque's Mushroom Gummies. So I removed all other supplements and began to take 2 of the delicious tasting gummies each morning after eating. By the 4th week, I really started to notice I could focus for longer and my brain fog wasn't anywhere near as bad. It feels like I have a clearer mind. Naturally, they may not work for everybody, but I feel it's my mission to at least let you all know about these gummies. They include 10 functional mushrooms within them, including lion's mane, shiitake, and turkey tail mushrooms. With their non-GMO, gluten-free and filler-free gummies, they offer a tasty solution to an ND brain. You can order one-off pouches with 60 gummies inside or sign up to the discounted monthly bundles. Best of all, if you use my code OWEN15, you'll get 15% off your order. Visit www.anquay.com and use code OWEN15 at checkout. That is www.ankhway.com.